Me, right here. Yeah. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin Griego. I go by Katie or K-Bug. Who gave me a microphone? I'm here making a podcast. I have a lot to say, so I've just been wanting to make a podcast for a while now. I just wanted to come on somewhere and just be raw and speak. But do people care what I have to say? Yeah, and that's what we'll be talking about this episode is just the weight of being heard, and my personal journey with learning to trust my own voice. The thought of making a podcast has come and gone for quite a while now. I remember almost going through with it a few years ago, but I think I had so many insecurities and fears of making one that I just never did. I just never followed through with it. I found something else to distract myself. I kind of made up excuses as to why I didn't want to do it, but really it was just the fears and the insecurities that come along with speaking in public, especially digitally, you're putting it somewhere where you don't know how people are interacting with it. You know, when you speak in public, you can see their reactions. They're more inclined to be respectful about what you're saying versus when you post something online, it's up for anyone's judgment in private. You know, people can laugh, people can judge, people can disagree, or people can hate. Realistically, that's definitely what's kept me from putting my opinions and my feelings out there. I will say though that this episode is really about the insecurities. I don't have a lot of answers. I just am saying fuck it, and here I am in front of the camera. Yeah, so I don't really have a lot of answers. I just know that I want to do it, so I'm gonna try, and I'll learn and live, and yeah. I'm a really open-minded person, and I have changed my mind about things so many times. And I often think about how many people I've told something years ago, and I haven't really talked to them since, and they still think that's my opinion or that's who I am. And so that's, I think, one of the fears that I have with putting a podcast out there is that I'm always changing my stances on things. And my opinions are always evolving because of how open-minded I am. So putting a podcast out there is scary because I hate speaking in affirmatives and definitives, because yeah, I'm kind of flexible with what I believe, and maybe that's bad. I know you need to have your core values and beliefs, and I do have a small handful of those, but for the most part, I'm open-minded to at least hearing what you have to say and understanding where you're coming from. I could see how from your experiences you feel that way, or sounding like a toxic situationship, but yeah, but being genuinely open-minded can be difficult because there are very few things that I'm affirmative, you can't change my mind on this. And I actually can only think of three. Speaking in definitives, on a podcast, and kind of having to give a stance on subjects feels risky. We're all aware that cancel culture is a huge thing, and not that I am anybody of status to where I could get canceled across a lot of things and people. God, I hope not. There's so much pressure to say things perfectly online. That's why I'm nervous. I don't want to come on here and sound like my mind can't be changed about anything. These are just my testimonies of what I've experienced. So I don't want to come on here and it sound like I think that I know what I'm saying is right. Because I'm so open-minded, I don't want to come on here and sound like what I'm saying is the only truth. And if I do say something and you disagree, I probably get it. I probably understand. But I really just want to come on here and be raw and honest and not have to I'm nervous, it's I don't know if people care what I have to say or if they're going to like what I have to say. Ex Katie is a people pleaser, so sometimes those thoughts still linger just a little bit. I don't want to hurt anyone. I just want to be honest, I am aware that being open-minded and having an always evolving opinion is like a strength with growth and being flexible, and in relationships it's paid off wonders, obviously. But I do struggle. I struggle with self-doubt, and sometimes I do feel like a little bit scared that maybe I do lack like hardcore beliefs, which is something I'll get into in another episode. But yeah, so that's one of my fears. And then two, as a girl, see, this is what I'm saying. I don't want to say in definitives. I just think that there's like such a thing around like girls being know-it-alls. I don't want to sound like a know-it-all. I don't want to sound preachy, but I have experienced a lot, like for my age, I think like good things and bad things, sad things, mad things. And I don't want to sound like I know what's right. I just know what's happened to me, and I know what's led me down rabbit holes and bad paths, and what's led me closer to God and to be a better person to everyone that I care and don't care about. Yeah, so I hope I don't ever sound like a know-it-all, but that might happen. I hope not, but I'm gonna post this anyways, and it is what it is. Like, I know I'm not trying to be, so maybe that counts for something. I don't know. But even off camera, I hate talking about myself, really. I have a really big personality, and I've done so many things that I can't ever let myself talk about myself for a very long time, because I start to feel like a know-it-all, and I start to feel preachy and braggy. And even though I know that's not my intentions, I feel like I have to breadcrumb like whoever I'm talking about my personality. Like, I feel like I'm too much all at once. So like even off camera, I get nervous that people don't really care about what I have to say. It's like, okay, girl, like we get it, who cares? But like I love talking and I love talking to people, and I care just as much about hearing about your experience as I do sharing my own. So I hope like, that's the type of environment I'm creating in the camera, that like I'm talking to you on the podcast, but I hope that like, if you feel inclined to like text me or like reach out, like we can talk, because I can talk. I got you. And I care. Like I really do care about what people have to say. And I hope that's more common in other people than I think it is. Like, and in the light of being vulnerable, I actually have a positive story of feeling like a know-it-all, and something that made me feel a lot better. See, this is weird, being vulnerable online. Okay, here I go. I was in a relationship for a long time, and I don't think it's anything he directly did, my first long-term partner, but like he was really intelligent and like street smart, so maybe like that had something to do with my own insecurities. But I don't know. Sometimes I felt a little silly talking to him about things that I experienced or things that I learned. I think he never told me I was a know-it-all, but like he made me feel silly, I guess, indirectly. And this was a long time ago, so we were kids. I think that like that really inclined me to like water down my personality. I'm a crier. Like I do have a lot of things to say, but I never like talk about my feelings in this much capacity. So excuse me if I get emotional. But yeah, I just felt like I had to water myself down a little bit, and that sucked. On the light side of things, I said this was a positive story, and I meant it. I had a little summer fling. I talked to this guy, and I really liked him over the summer, and he was like really receptive to like knowledge and all my random facts and hearing about my experiences. Literally did breadcrumb my personality to him. Like started small, like my experiences and knowledge and interest and hobbies and XYZ. I just started out, being myself, but not really talking about myself that much. And then over time, I got into it. And he was always like interested and like would ask questions. And like I just remember being like, he cares what I have to say. I mean, I at least I felt like he did. And that was so refreshing, and like, ugh, I loved that. I even told him like, you know what? I just want to tell you like the way that you are so receptive to knowledge and like information and just stupid stuff that like I have to say. Thank you. Thank you, because that healed something in me for sure. Next. I don't know if anyone else has this like experience, I'm really into self-improvement. I'm really into wellness and mental health and da 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 da. Something that I see, obviously, and I'm sure if you're kind of on the same side of the internet, that you see the same thing, is like journaling. Like, you should journal. I have like 3 journals, and they all have maybe 3 pages written, because every time I'm like, oh, sad, like I need to write, I start writing and I feel so performative. Like, I think that's maybe called like imposter syndrome. I don't know. I don't really know what it is, TBH. I start writing and I'm like, ew, like I'm aching myself out. I'm literally making myself cringe. Like, it is not that serious. I discredit everything that I've been through that led up to me wanting to write in that journal. And I'm like, ew, I'm disgusting. I just need to get over it. That's how I feel slightly about this podcast. Is I'm scared to give myself the ick. I'm scared to look back and be like, ew, why did I say that out loud? That was so performative, even though I know it's not. Like, I'm speaking from the heart, I promise. It's so easy to discredit my own experiences once they're spoken out loud. I tell myself, Katie, like, that was not that serious. Like, it could be worse. It could be worse. Stop talking about it and just like talk about the positive aspects, blah, blah, blah. And I just start to like wonder, like, how can I prove that I'm being genuine? But I can't. So hopefully you guys can just trust me on that, because that's all I got. I got my iPad with some notes and my heart and my experiences. My stances are always changing. The fear of sounding like a know-it-all and just this performative feeling are like internal reasons as to why I kind of hesitate on like giving public opinion or like speaking up online. Once my voice has said things and there's a record of me voicing that, like it's a little bit different. But my external reason is obviously, do people even care? Right? We started with that question. Do people give a fuck? Obviously, like I said, I hope so. And like that goes along with like what they think of me. Like, am I likable? Am I annoying? Am I a know-it-all? Am I as emotionally intelligent as I think I am? Am I in a place to give people advice? Because I really feel like I could help people or make people feel like less alone. But like, am I really that person? Like, I don't know. Like, I do have that fear that I'm not entertaining or that I'm just like stupid. And like, I have no idea that I am both of those things. And then it's just like scary because I feel that way, but I still have to like be vulnerable for this to work, for it to even have a chance. Like, I have to be vulnerable. So it's hard to be vulnerable when having no idea like how people are going to react. I don't know how many people think about this, but like a lot of the podcasts that have helped me most, people have to share like real experiences that involve like real things that happen to them with real other people, with like, and obviously without naming names. Or I do believe that like in this podcast, if it goes anywhere, that like I will have to use stories and examples of things that have happened to me with people who can access this stuff. And people pleaser Katie, who honestly has healed from so much that I've gone through and experienced, has no resentment towards these people or hate for anybody. I'm like scared to be vulnerable because people might know who I'm talking about, or like, they might feel hurt, or that might not be their interpretation of what happened. And, like, I don't want drama. Oh my God, no. But actually, I do have a Bible verse that like I was reading the other day. Wait, I'm going to grab my Bible. Okay, it's Matthew 7:1. Do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. This gave me like a lot of hope in the midst of brainstorming a podcast and like having fears, because like we've all judged somebody. So I don't want to sit here and say I've never judged anybody, but I really don't judge people off their testimony and like what they have to say and share about their experiences. And I'm always open to hearing people. I just hope that I will be perceived with that same like patience and respect and grace that I give to other people. And that's all I can like hope for and pray for. So to tie all of this together, my first episode, wow, what a mess. I was very back and forth, but that's okay. I can acknowledge that I know that these insecurities are real, and I'm sure I'm not the only person who's faced them or dealt with them, whether it be just talking to people or if it is something like digital and like sharing your opinion online and on social media. And like these are probably universal feelings about multiple different experiences. I am proud of myself for moving forward anyways, even if I sound like a know-it-all to some people. And even if I look back and I'm like cringing and making myself out, even if my stances change and my opinions change, I'm proud of myself. And I think that this is like a huge step of growth for me. I like to feel heard. So taking the risk to not be is big for me. Something I've been living by that also pushed me to like make this episode was that the uncomfortable choice is often the one that will get you farther. And this is uncomfortable. I'm sure you guys have also heard the quote, feel the fear and do it anyways, or do it scared. And for the most part, that motto has also gotten me to some of like the highest points and like most rewarding moments of my life. So, you know what? Why not try it one more time, right? There's value in just simply showing up and being honest about not being perfect. And that's what I plan to just do with the entire podcast. So to close, so the big question that I asked is, do people care what I have to say? And I think if you're struggling with the same question, like I said, I don't have answers, but I think it's a good question to ask yourself. Do I care enough to share it anyways? That is something that I'm going to be thinking about in the process of editing this video and uploading this. And I hope I can invite you guys to also reflect on your own fears about speaking up. Hit me up. We can talk about it. Like, even if we don't have a solution, just understanding that someone gets it. I got you. Yeah. So I hope you guys care what I have to say. Long story short. If not, that's okay. I'm proud of myself for just putting this shit out there and saying fuck it. And, hopefully I stick with it. I'm a busy girl. I hyperfixate, but I really am proud of like this. And I want to take this somewhere cool, whether it's just a family and friends thing that they listen to, or if it's just something that like I watch. It's my journal. It's my digital journal, So yeah, I plan to post as often as I can, maybe like every week. Yeah. So thanks for listening, guys, if you made it this far, and I will see you guys next time.